Hello and welcome to the Viva Vegan Podcast. I'm your host Rachel and today I'm joined by Nicole, otherwise known as Vegan Beauty Girl.
Yeah, hello.
Hello, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
So for those people at home who don't know, Nicole is an influencer who focuses on everything to do with veganism, including vegan beauty, vegan skincare, vegan food, basically everything to do with the vegan movement really.
Yeah.
So we'd like to sort of kick off by asking our guests, how did you become vegan and sort of what's your reason behind it?
Yeah, so I went vegan back in 2007, which is a bit of a claim, I guess.
Yeah.
And I was 13 at the time, and I'd already gone vegetarian like 2 years prior. And for me, it was, I remember just like being at this school event, and I somehow found out that some people somewhere eat camels. And It was one of those things where you're like, oh no, that's so wrong. And then someone was like, well, we eat cows and pigs. And I was like, oh, I guess that's wrong too.
Yeah.
So I feel like for a lot of people it is that sort of thing where you find out, you kind of have that connection, you're like, oh yeah, you're right, there isn't actually farm animals and companion animals, they're just animals. And that's when I went vegetarian. My parents negotiated me down to pescatarian, and then a year later vegetarian.
Yeah.
And then a year after that I went vegan when I kind of just found out what I was.
Yeah.
So I actually found out through Peter.
Okay.
That, yeah, I was just like looking, I was like, well, what more can I do for the animals or whatever. I thought I'd just like campaign at school for better food at lunch or something.
Yeah.
And then I came across what a vegan was, and I realised how much animal death kind of comes from milk and eggs, and it's horrible, isn't it? So yeah, especially being 13, I feel like I was one of those kids that was so into her convictions. So I was just like, oh well, I can't be a hypocrite, I've got to go vegan.
Yeah.
And yeah, unfortunately I had great parents who were okay with it.
Nice.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of people wouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, thankfully. And I thought it was quite easy, to be honest, when I look back on it. But then I talked to my mum, and my mum will say that it was horrible. Like their first supermarket shop after I went vegan back in 2007 was just hell. She was looking at everything. She was like, what do I buy her?
Yeah.
But we got through it. I discovered Holland and Barrett.
Nice.
So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it must have been like very, very sort of different being vegan in 2007 compared to what it's like now when you go to the supermarket and you can get vegan absolutely everything.
I get giddy. We're so spoiled. So yeah, it definitely is a real treat. But sometimes I do miss like the old days. Not a lot, but like going to restaurants, you'd often get like stuffed peppers and like aubergine, and now it's always a burger on the menu.
Yes,
so it's like, okay, another burger. And yeah, there'd often be the days where you just get chips, and that was sometimes a nice treat.
I do sometimes like getting chips and a side salad and a pint. I just think it's kind of like a throwback, you know?
Yeah, there's something simple about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it definitely is a lot easier now and a lot more fun now.
Yeah.
And I do wonder, because it was easier being a child and going vegan because I didn't really have to be in a professional environment. I can imagine like working and, you know, just going out for a work lunch, and it would just be a bit embarrassing sometimes being like, oh, I guess I'll just have the chips, or I imagine dining out back then would have been a lot more difficult, and I didn't have to worry about that too often when I was younger. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, I've definitely had it now, like in sort of my professional career when I've gone out at my old job with like clients and stuff, and they've been like, oh, how about we go for lunch at a steakhouse? And I've been like, sorry to be a stick in the mud, but absolutely not.
Yeah, and it's not fun being the stick in the mud.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So fortunately, not many opportunities to be a stick in the mud at the moment.
Yeah, and I mean, because I'm a vegan now, it's fine. Never have to worry about that. It's just all vegan, everything, so that's great. So you're best known for being an influencer, but as I understand, you started out as a maths graduate, is that right? Yeah, so can you sort of tell us like how you got into becoming an influencer?
Yeah, so I think, I was in like my final year of uni when influencers started kind of becoming a thing. So that was around 2015. And I remember I was studying in Nottingham, and I just remember seeing like the vegan movement suddenly start in London. I feel like London was really late to veganism compared to the rest of the cities, and it might just be high rents and stuff like that. But like influencers started coming out of nowhere, and new restaurants were launching, and I was just getting like so jealous, and I think I felt quite possessive over the vegan scene, and seeing other people maybe coming new to it, I just felt a bit like, oh, you're not really doing it right. Like they were still using products that were tested on animals, which was, it was very hard to go cruelty-free back then. So I understood it, but I just thought like, oh no, you're doing it wrong. And I was like, I want to do this, and I want to show people how to do it best. and that's kind of where it emerged from. And I decided to start with the beauty side of things. So my first account was like Vegan Makeup UK, and it was just because I think at that point I'd been vegan for about 8 years, and I was still struggling so much with buying exclusively vegan and cruelty-free products.
Yeah.
And it wasn't through like a lack of will, but maybe like a lack of budget was some part of the problem. But yeah, so I just wanted to be able to help people with that, and also kind of like document my own discoveries. Like, these were back in the days where you'd be in Superdrug and you'd be looking up like the vegan list for certain brands, and then you'd just like be cross-checking everything, and the security guards be watching you as well. And I'd be like, oh god, this is embarrassing.
I've definitely had that before, and then my phone doesn't have signal.
Oh yeah.
And I'm just in the middle of Boots, like going towards the door to get a bit of signal. And this was only sort of like a couple of years ago. I think like definitely, maybe in the last sort of like 18 months, like they've really stepped up their game with labelling, haven't they?
Yeah.
Which is obviously, so much better than typing is so-and-so cruelty-free into Google before you go to the shop. Yeah,
and then I think for me a big turning point was, I think I was a bit late to discovering that Superdrug was actually like complete their own brand stuff are cruelty-free, Leaving Bunny approved cruelty-free, and then they're really good at labelling their vegan things. So I think around 2015 when I learnt that, everything changed for me. I was like, oh wow, it's actually affordable now, because before that I was going to like Holland and Barrett on a student budget, and it was tough, so that was nice. And I was just documenting that, and it was nice to kind of be able to share that with people, and I felt like it was a really good little cruelty-free community. Yeah. I still like that side of Instagram now, because I feel like they're the vegans who really do care about like the animals, like so much to change the lifestyle, not just the diet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oh, very interesting. And when did you sort of decide to like quit your job and like sort of dive into it head first full time?
So graduated 2015-16, then I moved to London, moved back home, got my like city job, and I worked in like corporate travel, and it was really fun. Like my first big office job in London, it was an open plan office, so I learnt so much, and I absorbed a lot, and it's really helped me. I feel like one of the big lessons I learnt was kind of like, whatever opportunities come, say yes, and you'll work it out later. And I was like, okay, because I feel like if I didn't learn that, I'd be thinking, oh, I'm not ready to do anything. So I decided to go down an analyst route. I thought that sounded like a good plan B. So I got a new job working as an analyst. Then I was doing well with the Instagram stuff, getting more ads through, which is where a lot of the money comes from. And I decided to go down to 3 days a week. My employer wasn't too happy about that. So I was like, oh, I'd like to do 3 days a week. And they were like, no. And I said, oh, okay, I quit then. They're like, okay, no, you can do 3 days. And then
nice bargaining.
And then things were going well, and I decided to quit and go full-time influencing in January 2020, which in hindsight wasn't really necessarily the best time, because the pandemic wasn't the best for me. So, it worked out. I've worked... So I've done it mostly full-time since then. There was a patch, like, I think in 2021, where I worked at a vegan salon as a receptionist 2 days a week. And that was really cool. I got to learn a lot about, like, beauty treatments in the, like, vegan space. But sadly, the salon I worked at, Lackadon Stripped, is no longer there in Marble Arch anymore. But, but I still go to I get my nails done with their nail tech. Yeah. She wasn't vegan, but, she's got all the vegan clients now. So she just continues doing that.
Love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about being an influencer. I think a lot of people at home might not necessarily understand like what sort of an influencer does, or like what a typical day in the life is like. So it'd be great to hear from you, like what is the day in the life of an influencer?
Gosh, it varies so much day to day, it really does. And I feel like especially the sort of content I create is very much based in life. So I like to just, make videos about living as a vegan and being kind of helpful and relatable and all that sort of stuff. So the lines between like work and play are very blurred for me. So, I feel like I'm kind of always on, but not really working as hard as I would have at a 9 to 5 sort of thing. So it's a very bizarre thing. But like, so this week, we were talking about this earlier, I'm like reviewing meal deals. So around my week this week, it is about like going out and getting a meal deal, filming it, and then putting together a video, doing the voiceover and publishing that. I do like emails in the morning, or I'll have an event to go to, and they're just lots of different pieces to it. But it's a very fun job. Honestly, it's my dream job. So it's just great. There's a lot of editing and a lot of emails that people don't realise, but generally, I feel like sometimes I hear influencers talk about like, oh yeah, we work so hard, and I mean, I don't think we work as hard as a lot of other jobs. So it's a real joy to be doing it, and yeah, I feel very lucky to have managed to make it work.
Yeah, fair play, love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about sort of like vegan and cruelty-free. So I meet quite a lot of people who are just getting started on their vegan journey when we go to events and stuff, and they're like, okay, I've managed to go a vegan diet, but I'm not really sure where to start with makeup or my skincare. And I think when I went vegan as well, like I was like, oh, I'm buying cruelty-free stuff, and I always have even before I was vegan, but I didn't really sort of know the difference between vegan and cruelty-free. So do you mind just like explaining to the audience, like what is the difference between vegan and cruelty-free?
Yeah, so a vegan beauty product is all about the ingredients.
Okay.
So it's about not having stuff like beeswax in it, or milk, or honey, or carmine, just all these different ingredients that come from animals. And then the cruelty-free side of things is all about animal testing. So that's about making sure that the product and its ingredients haven't been tested on animals, and that they're not going to be sold anywhere where they'll be tested on animals. And it is definitely confusing. I definitely found it very frustrating when I first went vegan. Like, how can a vegan product not be cruelty-free?
Yeah.
And it still really irks me if I ever see a brand that's not cruelty-free have a product out and put vegan on it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does that just mean where like, so all the ingredients are vegan, but it's been tested on animals?
Yeah, or it might have been. Yeah.
That's so weird.
Yeah, it really.
It doesn't really make sense why you'd go all that way to advertise a product as vegan. I suppose it's just to try and get more buyers, isn't it?
Yeah,
but
like the boom in vegan beauty. It's so funny as well, because when I first went vegan, a lot of brands were put off putting vegan on their products because it sounded like it'd be rubbish, basically. I think people thought, oh, it's going to be really natural, it's not going to work, and it's just going to be bad. Whereas then we had the vegan boom and it became profitable, and then everyone's like, how do we say we're vegan without, necessarily being all in the ethics? So some people say that they use a vegan formula.
Oh yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah, and that's not, sometimes it will be a cruelty-free product, but other times it's not, and you're like, okay. Or like they'll have a plant-based range or something like that. And so yeah, you just have to double check stuff. And also, like, my biggest tip for checking if a brand's cruelty-free is to generally avoid their FAQs if you're not like too sure what you're looking out for, because a lot of brands who aren't cruelty-free are really good at making sounds like they are.
Right, okay, yeah.
So unless they've got a certification, I always think it's good to just double check on like the cruelty-free blogs. So you have Cruelty-Free Kitty, Ethical Elephant, and Logical Harmony, who are just really good independent blogs that make sure that you're getting as much transparency as a consumer.
Yeah. Good to know, yeah. It's very handy to know where you can check, because definitely a lot of brands can sort of skirt around the truth, can't they?
Yeah.
So we really value the lives of animals. And that's their explanation. It's like, okay, but are you testing on them or not?
And a lot of them, they aren't testing. They're like, we do not test on animals unless required for a territory or something like that. So
I was actually just going to ask you about that. So testing on animals in mainland China has been quite like a sticking point for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And I remember when I first went vegan, like thinking this product was vegan or whatever, and then looking it up and then seeing on like the blogs or whatever that people were like, technically it is, but it's either owned by like a parent company or it is sold. Is it mainland China where they have to test on animals? Is that still the case, or is it becoming?
It's becoming better. Okay. It's still very, very complicated is basically it. So it will depend on whether or not a product is like a special cosmetic, like stuff like hair dyes and sun lotion. Will still need to be tested, whereas something, it depends on so many things. Also, depending on whether or not they're marketing towards like children, or whether or not they're sold in store, and whether or not they're coming in with new like beauty claims. So there are so many different elements as to whether or not people can sell in China and remain cruelty-free. Like, for example, Dove are now cruelty-free certified, and they sell in mainland China, but they can't sell, I believe, like an antiperspirant deodorant because that's making such a claim. Yeah. So that would need to be tested. So they've got to be like really careful about the products that they put out there. So yeah, I feel like things got a bit easier of selling in China, and it became possible to sell mainland China and remain cruelty-free. And a lot of people thought that was just the end of it, and now they're like, oh, it's not an issue, where it still definitely is. And if brands are selling there and want to remain cruelty-free, there are so many hoops to jump through, and it's best, a lot of them are like Leaping Bunny certified. So it's good to just check for that, because they are the gold standard of cruelty-free. So if someone's got the Leaping Bunny logo and they're selling in China, you can trust that they're doing it within the cruelty-free rules, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so complicated.
It really is. It's
so many layers to it.
Yeah, and it's constantly moving forward generally. So I would say, again, it's about like checking in with Cruelty-Free International and like Ethical Elephant and just seeing what updates they have, and not necessarily just running away with the headlines. But yeah, a lot of brands, it's just such a big lucrative market for them. So they're trying to figure out, do we go for the vegans across the world, or do we stay selling in China? What's more profitable? And then also on the parent company side of things, that's just a whole other argument in the cruelty-free space about whether or not it's still cruelty-free if you buy from a brand and they're owned by a company that's not cruelty-free.
Where do you stand on that, you personally?
I generally avoid brands with parent companies. I would say my big exception is like Superdrug. So they've got a parent company who are not cruelty-free, but I think Superdrug do so much for making vegan beauty accessible and affordable in the UK. And I just think they're a great brand, so I would still buy from them. But generally, like Dove being owned by Unilever, or anyone who's like owned by L'Oreal, I boycotted the Body Shop along with a lot of people when they got owned by L'Oreal. I feel like that was the biggest case study we've ever seen about like parent companies and the ethics of that. And sadly, the Body Shop have gone into administration this year.
So sad.
Yeah.
They were like my go-to for so many years.
Yeah, and they've just gone fully vegan like in January, and I was so happy. I was like, oh cool, there is actually a fully vegan beauty shop on the high street. And now
it's one that everyone knows as well. Like everyone, like I remember growing up getting a present for like my friends for Christmas, and it'd be like a Body Shop gift set. It was like a classic go-to. So it's really sad. Let's talk about brands who still test on animals. Can you name them, please?
I mean, there are tons.
Let's let the audience at home know what brands to avoid.
Yeah, there are loads on the high street still. I think generally it's like the big brands, the historic brands are the ones like least likely to go cruelty-free. So you've got stuff like, I don't know, like L'Oreal, Unilever, Estee Lauder, Clinique, MAC. A lot of people seem to think MAC. I think they used to be cruelty-free, and it's been a long time that they haven't been, so a lot of people still think of them. Just honestly, so many brands on the high street still. I'm trying to think of them, like Neutrogena.
Sorry, I'll put you on the spot
it's okay. Like when I'm in, it's so funny whenever I go around to like a friend's house and I'm in their bathroom, just using loo, I'm sat there on the toilet just like looking around and kind of like rating their bathrooms and being like, cruelty-free, not cruelty-free. And then I'll come out and I'll be like, oh, do you know what? You actually got like top marks to you. Great bathroom. And they'll have like, who gives a crap loo roll? And I'm like, wow, you're impressive. Like, I love the care you put into this. So it's fun to, I love going to other people's bathrooms. I'm just sat there.
And what about brands that you love? What are sort of the brands that you love that are vegan, cruelty-free? Let's talk a bit about them. Give them a bit of positive PR.
I will say Lush is probably my favourite. I feel like they are a bit Marmite. You either love them or you hate them. But I really, really love them. And I think it's quite interesting to look at them compared to the Body Shop. Like Lush really stay true to their values. They didn't sell onto another company, and they've just, they just really still have really good sustainable ethics at their core. I feel like there aren't many companies out there that aren't like putting profit above everything else. And I really feel like Lush are one of those companies that actually does bring their ethics first. And they're also just really fun. Like they just did like their Shrek collab, and that was really, really cute. And they just bring out seasonal products as well. And if there's an ingredient somewhere in the world that is going through a shortage because like weather is wild thanks to the climate crisis, so they're not going to put pressure on farmers and being like, hey, we've got a contract saying this much vanilla needed to be delivered. They will instead say, oh, wow, we see you can't grow that much vanilla in these conditions. We'll change this formula, or we'll just like pull back this product this year. So they're just a really, really good ethical beacon.
I didn't know that about them. I think I obviously knew they were ethical, but I didn't know they do that with the farmers. I think that's so nice.
They really, really work with their suppliers. Like it's so community based. And then skincare wise, I love Face Theory. I don't know if a lot of people use them or heard about them, but I discovered them during the pandemic when we were all working through our skincare, and they completely transformed my face. So I did their like little quiz, and all their products are vegan and cruelty free. They're pretty sustainably focused, and very good for people who are really into their skincare. So if you're looking for like the effective ingredients and to shop for like via that, they're a really cool company to do that with. And then I love Superdrug, which we'd already mentioned. But yeah, they're just complete game changers, and it makes it just so easy to recommend vegan and cruelty-free products to people in the UK, because I'm like, it's so affordable. You've got no excuse, really. Yeah.
And sort of talking of like products, do you have any like holy grail products that you absolutely can't live without?
Oh, I think with I've got the Face Free Pore Bright Serum, which just keeps my skin like so much clearer than it used to be.
Yeah.
And then Celestial from Lush is like my favourite moisturiser of all time. I'd say those two products have not changed at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My go-to one, it's actually quite a recent discovery in like sort of the last year, but it's Florence by Mills, which is, you know, Millie Bobby Brown from Stranger Things. It's her makeup line, and it's like supposedly like targeted at Gen Z, and all that, the marketing's really fun and cute, and it's all cruelty-free and vegan, and the mascara is like hands down the best one I've ever used.
Okay.
And it's like not like too expensive, it's like £16, so it's not like cheap, but it's not like break the bank as well.
Yeah, and they're in Boots, aren't they?
Yeah, and it's just so good. That's like probably my number one go-to.
Oh wow.
And then I love the Ordinary skincare as well, because it's so cheap and like so good for my skin. So
Cute. Yeah.
So in terms of like testing on animals, do you think the government needs to be doing more to make sure that it's obsolete?
Yeah, I think so, especially since, you know, we had Brexit.
Yeah.
And that apparently gives us better power over our own laws, so we can really lead the way there. But our big animal testing law really came from the EU. Lush are currently doing quite a bit on that. So they've got a website like fightinganimaltesting.com, I believe, if not something very similar. But and on there they've kind of outlined how they would like to see legislation kind of play out, and just that more transitioning towards non-animal testing methods, not just in the beauty space, but in general. These days we've got so many different, more effective ways of testing, especially with the rise in AI. So it's so ineffective and cruel to test on animals. So it's just logical, and it's really frustrating when you look at the government, and there are so many places we could really be industry leaders, like doing non-animal testing and greener economies, and you just want to shake them and just be like, just help it. Like everyone's a winner, so there's no reason to not be focusing on these things. So yeah, I think it'll be quite interesting, especially when we get a new government, maybe get a new government in. But yeah, whenever we have our general election, we've got kind of like a fresh page to kind of push forward for more.
Yeah. It's actually like, talking of the upcoming election, it's quite interesting. I've been like getting to know all the different manifestos, and I like to read all of them, even though there's some that I definitely wouldn't vote for, and I'm not saying who that is. And I've been really interested in seeing which parties talk about animals, and it's a surprisingly small number of them. And I think they need to be like putting it more in their policies and explaining what they're going to do for animal welfare and what they're going to do for the climate. And
especially as a nation of animal lovers, it would be really good to see that sort of area addressed more. And I watched the movie I Could Never Go Vegan recently, and it really explained how our standards for like farm animals is actually not as good as we like to claim, and it would be really good to see those standards improve as well, especially with like, I don't know, like animal-based diseases always being a fear for people, and you know, we are in a climate crisis and we all know of that link, so it would be nice to see our governments care a bit more about farm animals as well as cosmetic testing and the like. It's kind of like a sort of juxtaposition really, where like I meet people who aren't at all vegan, and but they're really passionate about cruelty-free makeup. I've met so many people like that, and it's very interesting nuance, because I think they think cute bunnies being tested on bad, but me eating bacon fine, and it's just kind of like an interesting juxtaposition there. I think it just is so pointless to a lot of people. A lot of people are just so aware that we do not need to be testing on animals for cosmetics in particular, and it's just, they do just feel so frustrated. They're like, oh, it's just so unnecessary, whereas they're like, well, I do like my bacon. But
so you've sort of used your platform for good, and you tend to be quite outspoken about political issues. Do you think it's important for influencers to use their platform and their reach to speak out about topics that they're passionate about?
I think so, personally. But I would say that, you know, when I first decided I wanted to do social media, I didn't necessarily think of it as a job. I just thought I wanted to have that influence. So that was always what I was searching for. I kind of wanted to just be a good influence, encourage people to go vegan and show them how fun it can be, and how I hate the idea of like having to like sacrifice so much in life to do something good. I feel like people really paint out veganism as like a really tough thing to do when it's actually
like it's
pretty
endless
chill.
suffering.
Yeah, and it's so much fun. So I'm always trying to be like, hey, look how fun this is.
Yeah.
And yeah, so the whole reason I ever went into doing this sort of stuff was just because I wanted to speak out and do all that sort of stuff. So if I see any sort of injustice, whether or not that's like veganism or anything political going on, I always think it's really important to speak out and not really. I just don't understand how people can stay silent. Yeah. So generally, more recently, it's been a lot about Palestine and just speaking out for that. And there's such. I feel like a lot of people get put off veganism because people think vegans only care about animals.
Yeah.
And I've always wanted to kind of, I've gone into influencing because I wanted to be the vegan I'd like people to see and get rid of their misconceptions.
Yeah.
So it's quite important for me to show people that I'm vegan and I care about humans as well.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of vegans who do also care about humans. So I don't like the idea of being vegan means you have to just care about animals. So I think that's just something really important to put out there, as well as, you know, encouraging people to go to protests too. I feel like the government are doing a lot right now to make them seem really scary and really put people off. Whereas, I live in central London and I've got like a lot of free hours, so it's easy for me to go to these protests, and then I'll make sure that I film them and show people that they're nothing like a hate march, that it's just, it's a really safe place to be on a day out. So it's just about trying to use your influence for good, I guess. I like to say I'm a professional good influence, so
Love that. Yeah, it was definitely kind of a turning point when the government introduced the bill that's like essentially making protests illegal, and I thought it was like such a step backwards, step back, because without protest we would just be living in the same standards that we did hundreds of years ago, where many people suffered and animals suffered and loads of people suffered. So I think it was a toxic move from them.
Honestly it is very, very concerning, a lot of the things that the government are doing right now, and I'm very excited for a general election and for a lot of I'm really keen to see policies outside of the Tories and Labour as well. I don't feel like I've seen much of that yet, so I'm excited to see that later on in the year. But I don't know who I'm voting for, and I'm also not a fan of telling people who to vote for. I like telling people register to vote, go look up what everyone stands for and move forward with that.
As long as you vote. That's I think everyone should vote.
Or even if you go to spoil your ballot because you're unhappy. I don't know. I know some people get in trouble for saying I've never done it. It's not really, but if that is what you believe in, you know, go out and do that. Basically, Just
get to the polling station and vote. That's a message to you at home.
Honestly,
So what's next for your career? What have you got on the agenda? What's coming up in the short term, long term future?
I will say one of the very interesting things about my career path is that it's not a very well trodden path. That it's not been around for a long time. So, you know, if you ask me my 10-year plan, I was just like, I don't know. I might still just be filming what I eat in a day. I don't know. But so I am taking, I'm taking not a break necessarily, but I'm off to Tenerife for a whole month next month.
Nice.
I know, honestly.
Finally getting to see the sun.
And I feel like I'm very lucky in having a job where you can be flexible and work abroad, and I've not done that once in like the last 4 years. So I was like, okay, let's go give that a go. But it's also going to be a really good time for reflection for me. So I think that's one of the things I'm going to try and sort out mentally next month. But I am keen. I've got my own podcast called Sassy in the City, and I'm looking to bring back season 2 for that.
Nice.
So I love these sort of conversations where you get to learn a lot more about other people, and spread the word is really fun. So I'm just I'm just enjoying making vegan content. I'm also I'm trying to be more intentional this year as well. So last month I did I had my mum's birthday in Portugal that I was going to, and I was a bit like, I'm trying to cut down on my flights, and but I don't want to miss out on this. So I decided to go to Portugal via coach to give that a go. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm creating the sort of content I want to see, and trying out more eco things as well as vegan things. So that was actually surprisingly fun. I think that was another thing where I'm like, why would anyone get the coach? That's just suffering. And then I was like, it's actually not that bad.
It's something a bit different. Unusual.
And you don't have to go through like all the airport faff. You don't really realise how much faff is around going through an airport. So it's nice to be able to try those sort of things. I'm very lucky with my job that I can do stuff like that. So it's about kind of seeing what I'm interested in, what my audience is interested in, and then trying out things on their behalf and being very honest with the feedback, basically.
That is one thing that I really like about your Instagram, is you'll say if you don't think something's very good. And I think that's really important, because there are a lot of influencers who've been like, right, I've been paid, so I'm going to say this is the best thing ever. And I think it doesn't come across as very authentic. Whereas with your content, I feel like it's very authentically you, which I think is probably what is like the appeal to people, because they know they can trust you, and you're not just going to be like, this is the best product ever, if you don't think that. So
I've definitely been at events before or meals before where people have been like, oh, that was awful, wasn't it? And I was like, yeah. And then my content's like, God, that was awful. And theirs was like, oh, this is great. And I was like, sorry, were we not at the same meal there? But yeah. Cool.
So we're going to like sort of wrap up by doing some light-hearted questions.
Okay, yeah.
Something a bit light to end it on. So are there any vegans who you particularly admire?
Oh, wow. I will say Billie Eilish.
Yeah.
Growing up as a vegan, it was very frustrating seeing like celebrity vegans still do like Jared Leto. He still does fragrance ads for brands that aren't cruelty-free.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't really understand how you do that. Like, I'm not as rich as Jared Leto, and I can still turn down these brand collabs. So I think he's in the position to turn down those. So it's been really nice seeing Billie actually use her influence to do things for the better and actually make some change and make sure that what she does align with her values. So I've actually really enjoyed that.
Yeah. I love her, she's so cool. I think it's such like niche vegan knowledge to know which celebrities are vegan, because I've had that before where I've watched a shampoo advert and it was a celebrity endorsing it, and I was like, I know she's vegan and I know that brand's tested on animals, and I was like, oh, I think I'm like a level 100 vegan now. The fact that I know both of those things. But yeah, I agree, like when you've got that much money, come on, guys,
there's no reason to be doing it. It really does bother me. I can't really put two and two together there. I don't know what's going on. So it's nice to see Billie just be a vegan that is in line with her ethics just throughout.
Love it. What would your ideal, so it's like your last meal ever, is your starter, main and dessert, and a little drink on the side.
Oh gosh.
What would you have?
God, starter, main and dessert. Oh, gosh. I always say that my favourite meal is mashed potato. So I'm like, I actually feel like if I were to, have a final meal, I'd just actually have a big bowl of mashed potatoes and gravy.
Would you have gravy on it?
Yeah, of course. Maybe a bit of broccoli on the side. Nice. But I just, I'm a big mashed potato person.
Yeah, fair play.
I do love vegan toad in the hole, and I don't come across it very often, so maybe I'll try and make a meal out of it. So starting with mash, let's build around it. And then, just probably a nice vegan white wine. I'm not a big dessert person, if I'm honest. No.
Yeah, maybe you could have a cheese board.
Oh, definitely not. No. I never liked cheese, so that was really easy.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah, and I never liked bacon, so that was
so easy to be a vegan then.
So that was quite an easy swap for me.
Yeah.
I like fruity desserts. I feel like a lot of times when you go out, it's cake and chocolate and all that stuff. And a poached plum. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, I can't do them very well, so if I had someone make me a nice one.
Yeah. Present it all nicely.
Yeah.
Nice. Do you have any gripes? Sort of issues with veganism as a movement?
Oh, yes, probably. I would say that we're definitely moving past it. I feel like we really had a vegan police era.
Yes,
and I feel like that came from Scott Pilgrim's, didn't it? Where they've got the vegan police to come up and I don't think it's nice to really nitpick people who are already doing quite a lot. So I don't like people kind of expecting perfect veganism from everyone. It's just very off-putting to a lot of people. We need a lot of people being more vegan and feeling welcome into the vegan movement and vegan space, rather than putting people off by setting really high expectations that not everyone wants to maintain. And I think I was talking about this recently, how plant-based is used, or Plant Pioneers or Plant Kitchen or whatever, that's used more than vegan, because people get so off-put by veganism because it is such a belief, whereas plants are just like, oh, you can eat a bit healthier, you can eat a bit more green, even though half the time it's vegan junk food. When you find something with plant, Sainsbury's I think have Plant Pioneers all over their vegan meats, people are like, oh yeah, and they think good for the environment, but they don't necessarily think kind to animals, or like, oh, I'm a vegan now. So I think, people just feel like they're really committing when they pick up vegan. So it's just such an intimidating word for so many people still. And I just think it's nice we just let more people into the club and keep it a bit more friendly and just focus on that.
Nice. Yeah, I love it. If you could turn one non-vegan product instantly vegan and it would be all sustainable and ethical and all the good stuff, what would it be?
Oh, wow. One product and then...
Yeah, like one food product or... Well, I suppose you could do beauty product as well if you wanted to.
Yeah, no. God, I feel like I should go for, like, I'm just thinking of efficiency. Like, if I went for, like, I think eggs, to be fair.
Yeah, I was thinking eggs,
Yeah, we've not really nailed it. So it would be really handy if we could just do that. I had a really, really cool vegan, I think it was a poached egg in Madrid. I can't even remember. Cool, it just had, like, the yolk there and it was freaky. But so it's getting there. It's just not really there. But I'd love to go to the supermarket and buy, like, egg for eggy soldiers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And sometimes I'm in a charity shop and I see like egg cups and I'm like, oh, egg cups are so fun. But like, what am I going to put in there? An avocado? I don't know. So it'd be cool if we could come up with, and they're so versatile. So if we could just replace all the eggs in the world, I feel like that would do the hens and the vegans a lot of help.
Exactly, yeah. And I think eggs is kind of like a sticking point for some people that want to go vegan as well. So if we could just instantly, using our magic wand, turn another eggs vegan, and then that'd be a dream,
Yeah, we've got scrambled tofu nailed. It's just everything else is still a bit...
We have in our cookbook, we have like vegan eggs Benedict, which is absolutely amazing. Okay. And then we have vegan fried eggs as well.
Oh, wow.
And our chef at work made them and we were all trying them and I was like, I can't believe how eggy this is. It was kind of like surreal doing it.
Oh, wow.
But if we could just like have it in an instant, then that would be...
Yeah, I'd say one of my biggest game changers was kalanamak, like the eggy salt.
Oh, yes, yeah.
That changes everything.
Yeah. And finally, if you had the ability to transform one person to a vegan, who would it be?
Oh gosh, it might be because we were just talking about her for the podcast, but I'm going to throw out Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
I feel like she has crazy amount of, like, I love her anyway, but she has crazy amount of influence. So if she became a raging vegan, imagine all the vegans that she'd create. So a Times Person of the Year sounds like a good shout. But that would be
all the
cool.
Swifties went vegan, I think it would be great.
Or maybe, no, I'm not going to waste it on Rishi Sunak. So
might be out by the end of the year.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas Taylor Swift's still going to be influential, I imagine.
Yeah.
So, I think, or should I just, I don't know if I should inflict it on like Andrew Tate or something and just piss him off. I'll stick with Taylor Swift though. I'll lead with kindness, not,
Taylor Swift, final answer.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, well, that's all the questions that I had. So thank you so much for joining us today on the Viva Vegan podcast. I hope you've had a good time.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to pop all of Nicole's social handles in the comments below. And thank you so much at home for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.